Hello, everybody. Raven Knight here, coming at you with another content creator interview. Today, we have a very special guest being interviewed. You guys may know him, and if you do not know him, you really, really need to. He is sometimes called the collaborator because his whole thing is, bringing together all these content creators. In fact, he reached out to me and got me involved in the For Honor Tavern, got me to meet a lot of really awesome people. He's a GOAT. He's the G. He is ABreakNRun. How are you doing, Break?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I am doing very good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Now, I will go ahead and say, starting out, I have interviewed a break and run before, but it was not in this official capacity. It was not in an official context. So, we're going to do it right this time. So, if you haven't watched this series, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Break 10 questions, and he can take as long or as little time as he wants answering each one of them. At the very end of answering all those questions, I will give the floor open to him to ask any questions he wants, and then we'll close out the video. So, Break, if you're ready, we'll jump right into the very first question. And I, again, ask this to everyone, but the name A Break and Run, where did that come from?
So, before I started doing the whole YouTube thing, I used to, after I got out of the military, I used to play pool for a living. So I used to go to pool tournaments all over my area. And technically, what a break and run is if you were to set up a game of pool, break the balls, and you make a ball on the break, and it's still your turn, and you finish the game without your opponent touching the table, that is technically what they call a break and run. Because you pretty much destroyed your opponent, you didn't give them a chance to play, and you were able to do that all from the get-go.
That's awesome. I remember you saying that before, but since I'm not a big pool player, I didn't know that terminology. So now I know.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
And you know what? Also, since we're doing this, go ahead and check out that video too. Link will be in the description.
Absolutely. I will leave that link in the description so you can hear some of these questions you will hear again. So check that out, guys. All right. So question number 2.
Mm-hmm.
What first you got you into For Honor, and when did you start playing it?
So I originally started playing For Honor. Actually, it's really funny. After a horrible breakup with the girlfriend that I had at that time, I had a friend of mine that I went to high school with. He had diabetes and he was losing his sight, like his eyesight, and we would play Monster Hunter together. It got to a point where I had to walk towards him and then drop ping so that he could follow my ping to the monster. And he was using the bow too, so it was a rough time. And he was like, "Yo, you really gotta try out this game. It's for free on Xbox Gold." Way back in the day when they were still doing the Xbox Gold games. And what ended up happening was I would always play heroes Guardian heroes in Smite, or tank heroes in Overwatch and other games that were very, very similar. I've always played support in Call of Duty, the light machine guns and stuff like that. So originally I started playing with him to cover his ass and play some games, and I really fell in love with the game. I used to be big into fighting games when I was younger, and this was an itch that has never been scratched before. The game has been such a one-of-a-kind game. Back then, I was in Season 7 before the Wuin came out, and I've been hooked ever since.
Nice, nice.
To make
No, go
and
ahead.
to make the content, I actually, when the Wuin did come out, I wanted to pick somebody from the Wuin to main at that time, because at that moment I was a Shigoki main. And I had a friend of mine tell me, I was looking at all these messages, all these heroes that were coming out, and I was like, which hero can I play? Everyone's picking Tiandi and JJ and Shaolin, but no one was picking Nusha. So I decided to learn her, play her, and ended up becoming the #1 player on Xbox. Did the whole #1 series with Mr. Angelus on his channel.
Mm-hmm.
People started calling me out about it and saying, "Oh, this guy is horrible, da 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 da." And I was like, "Well, put up or shut up. Come play me on stream." That's how I started streaming.
Very nice. That you started streaming just to put up or shut up. I love that. That's actually really fun. So that actually leads into my third question. You kind of answered it, but I do want a bit more details. What would you say is your main in For Honor? Is Nusha still your main? And if she's not, who is?
Well, currently, as of this recording, we hit rep 1680.
Ooh.
Um, so currently at the moment, I would say Nusha is still a main of mine, but I main a lot of the heavy heroes. Um, I'm more along the lines of main Dominion. I mean heavy heroes. I mean playing smarter, not harder when it comes to Dominion.
Right.
Playing more as that strategical portion of the game.
That makes sense. So you're still on
Mhm.
the like Shugokis and the Hitos and stuff like that. Like
Oh
this.
yeah, playing Shigoki, Hito, Warlord, BP, uh, Janhu, Kensei, Warmonger, Conqueror, JJ, you name it, I've played the hero. I would say like my weakest heroes are probably my Gladiator or my Tiandi, because I feel like I always do toothpick damage, and those characters really need a lot of like commitment into their attacks. And I always end up like doing really bad with them most of the time.
That's fair. That's fair. I struggle. I struggle with those characters. Well, particularly Gladiator. Not, I'm okay. I'm okay with Tiandi, but not Gladiator. So, what inspired you? This is question number 4 to create content on a YouTube channel. You said that you started streaming to kind of tell people to put up or shut up about your Nusha play. But what made you want
Mhm.
to start doing full-on content creation and YouTube videos and stuff like that?
So when I started doing those videos back in the day after I was starting to stream to kind of like really help out my gameplay for the most part, it was one to take a look at how I've progressed like during my time. And as I was streaming, after a year of streaming and I was doing a little bit of YouTube content as well, I was actually contacted by Ubisoft to start doing a lot of their early access stuff. This was during the Dead by Daylight event. And
Mm.
that's when I really started kicking up more content into seeing why people didn't understand how For Honor was played. There's a lot of like, as most people have seen that you do play For Honor, you end up having to deal with a lot of random people doing really silly things. And you're just like, how do these people think? Why are they thinking like that? And so I saw a part of the internet, part of For Honor that wasn't being breached, which was, teaching people how to play smarter in Dominion. And I leaned my content instead of back then, before the Dead by Daylight event, was more along the lines of like how well I did in like ranked matches to then showing full-fledged Dominion videos so that people could watch and learn about and ask questions about why I did a certain thing or why I made a certain choice in the game to help them with their better decision making. Putting the common back in common sense.
Well, I remember that. I think it's funny you say that Ubisoft kind of reached out to you around the Dead by Daylight event. Were you surprised to hear from them, or did you kind of see
Oh,
that?
yeah, I was very surprised to hear from them. I mean, honestly, I didn't even think I was a blip on their radar, to be completely honest.
I get that.
I mean, honestly, right now, besides Wex and John Deliner, I'm one of the only other content creators in For Honor that actually has a Ubisoft creator code on the Ubisoft store.
Oh,
I was also part of their test pilot program when they were first bringing that out. Because
that
I know
is.
Wex just got hers recently.
Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had that. Well, now you guys know. Now you guys know if you're going to the Ubisoft store,
Yeah, use code BREAK.
use code break. Use code break. That will be and use code break or code Wex or John's. What's John's? Do we know?
No, I do not know John Deliner's one. He doesn't really shill it out as much.
He ought to. He ought to. All right. Well, we'll move
I know it
on.
was one of those things that he told me, and I was just like, "What, bro? You have it? Come on."
He's very laid back about that kind of stuff, I've noticed. But
Mhm.
this kind of leads me into my next question, since we know all these content creators. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to set up this question a little bit. Break has been, I've been kind of a pet project for Break to try to break apart my insecurities and, like just.
Oh, you're not the only
self-doubt.
one.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. Break has been working very hard to get these content creators who are very much introverted and get them to kind of come out of their comfort zone, collab more. And that's why I call you, and Wex has called you this too, the collaborator. What made you want to build sort of a community among the content creators? What made you want to sort of, bring us all together like this?
Well, back in the day, there was a Discord made by another content creator that really doesn't play For Honor anymore, so I really don't feel comfortable. I don't know if they'll feel comfortable with me mentioning their name,
Okay.
so I won't. And I realized that we had this little Discord of content creators, and no one was really talking to each other, or there were like a few little clicks here and there, but like no one really took the time to really expand on it. And I realized, this is a game of, you have duels, you have brawls, you have 4v4, and not a lot of people were doing content together. And again, it's another branch of content that just isn't really done, except for when we would do collaborations with the early access stuff. So once once we had our little Discord made, I decided to try to get people to come out of their shell. I would leave a Discord call open for those content creators to come in whenever they wanted. It's not utilized as much, but I still leave it open for people to come in. I still talk with people during like the people with the early access to get information, to get people to come out. Even during the early access time that we would have, I would leave my schedule as open as possible so that I would be open for collabs to put out content for those early access stuff, to try to, befriend more people, to try to, put myself out there to see if anyone else will, reciprocate with that situation. And that's how I kind of like, and since I've also been home from the military, when you come home from the military, I'll tell you one thing that they don't tell you is a lot of times our friends are gone and moved on with their lives when you come back home. So it's also another way to kind of like reach out and to become friendly again with the world.
I get that. And that makes a lot of sense. The military part I didn't even think about because, when you come back from that, it is hard to reconnect. And I do want to also say that I really appreciate it. I know that sometimes I can be stubborn or forgetful about certain things, but you've been really diligent about keeping me accountable and a lot of us accountable, trying to like, hey, don't be shy, pop in, say hi to other people.
Well, it's just because I care.
He cares so much, guys. And no joke, ABreakNRun is an awesome guy like that. And he's been really patient with me, but very, very diligent with getting me out of my comfort zone. So I appreciate him for that. Mm-hmm. He's an awesome guy like that. So let's step away from For Honor a little bit with this next question. Other than playing For Honor, what other interests, hobbies, or activities do you enjoy doing?
Honestly, as of right now, I've been getting really into some Tekken. We do Tekken on Monday streams. I've also during my if you missed it, I did a 24-hour stream on Sunday for my birthday that just passed on the 25th.
Nice.
And we ended up playing some Expedition 33, which I had a lot of fun with. I also do want to get into a little bit more of like the new Doom game that just came out, but my main passion is learning to play different competitive games like Tekken, For Honor. I would like to get into some other games, but I have to find my audience in certain situations. Mm-hmm. But it's also to kind of like branch out to see what will stick, what won't stick. But with how everything is going on at the moment with money and all that stuff, it always comes down to what's the business decision to make,
Yeah, it's a risk, and you got to weigh that for sure. And I get that. Like, it's one of the hardest things, and it's something that I talked about with Havoc in the past, and he would agree with this. When you set yourself up as a content creator of a specific thing, it becomes very hard to start branching out into other things because your audience came to you largely for that one thing, like For Honor. So if you suddenly change to Tekken or Dead by Daylight or Elden Ring or something like that, you might bring a few of your audience, but the majority probably won't follow. So it's a risk to branch out into other stuff. So
the biggest thing that you see it in is in streams. Because you'll do one stream and you'll have like 30-40 people jumping in to say hello and watch you play, and then I can go ahead and I can turn on like Elden Ring and I might have like 7.
Yeah, no, it's the truth.
Ooh.
And
So like it's a big indicator. Like if you're like not really big into like a certain game, or if you want to see how other people see these games, you would want to also play those other games as well.
right.
That's the whole concept. The concept with content creation is getting people to understand you as a creator, not just watching you for the game that you play.
Right, and actually, we'll
And
bring that up in a later question. So
Yeah.
save that. That'll come up in a later question
Gotcha.
I got for you. So number 7, we're on number 7 now. Okay, here we are. What has kept you going in terms of making content? Because you and I have talked, and I won't go into the personal stuff. You've been going through a lot of hell. There's been a lot of stuff going on in your personal life that I'm not going to go into. So I know how difficult it can be to keep going with content, and I know that sometimes it can be very frustrating when you don't see content creators that you're trying to collab with, acting the way they should. I know that I've been frustrating at times. What has kept you going, and what do you think is the most rewarding part of doing this whole YouTube thing that you're doing?
When it comes to like the most rewarding thing of content creation is probably just the way some people come to look up to you for guidance, especially as being a teacher yourself. I pride myself in how I'm able to teach during my streams, trying to teach when I do some of my content, because I did a video a few years ago about how to play Dominion smarter, not harder. Even though it didn't get a lot of views, there have been a lot of people that have come through and been like, oh my god, that's so insightful. I even do a series called HIT, or Heroes in Training, where my members on my YouTube channel can send me a video of one of their Dominion games, and I'll break down how that Dominion game went, like even to the point of where they died. Are they looking and seeing where fights are happening? Can they tell where all the enemies are on the map while they're waiting for respawn? Where your decision making of where you're going in from spawn at that certain time of like, are you going to the right spot for reinforcements? Understanding enemy attack patterns. If you're fighting the same person, are you understanding that they keep throwing a top light every time you throw a heavy, to try to interrupt you? And there's so much that goes into the technical portion of For Honor that I try to do that is just very, very rewarding. And what keeps me going is being able to help out those people. And honestly, with my injury from the military and me helping out my mother going through like chemo and the loss of my grandmother, there have been some times where I have to make sure that I have something to keep myself going when my mother passes.
Right.
And with content creation, even though because I'm injured, this is one way that I can actually do something to try to help out my family in that time of need. But I would also want to get to a point where I'd be able to sustain myself on that situation as well.
Gotcha. Now that makes sense, and I'm really glad you gave that answer, because it was something that I thought about. People were asking me the other night when I was doing my Q&A video, how do you keep going through the tough times? And I think about it and I go, I'm going through some hell, but I know that folks like Havoc and you have gone through a lot of hell yourselves, and that was something that I really wanted to ask you, because I think everyone has their own unique answer to that. But that ties into question.
Oh, and don't worry, we're gonna get into that with you as well.
Oh boy, I'm excited. But that ties into question 8. Are there any moments or specific instances of content creator collaboration, since that's kind of your thing, that you have really looked back on and really liked? And have there been any that you didn't like? So what's the highlight and the negative that you can think of from your time trying to get collabs going?
I would say the biggest highlight is actually becoming friends with with people like Havoc, John DeLiner, Wex, King Angelus, and being able to work with such a variety of content creators that make it a very enjoyable experience, at least that I try to make. To be able to meet those people, to see how people tick, to see how people are able to, like, when they have conversations, they have questions, and seeing and being able to have these conversations with people and having a back and forth, rather than having some people where you're like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, and instead just having just fun with your fellow content creators. 'Cause that's one thing I really don't see with a lot of people is like, just have fun, brother.
Right. And let me say
That's
this,
like
not
the
to
biggest
interrupt, but
thing.
I will say this. If y'all hear
Mhm.
rumbling in the background, there's a thunderstorm going on outside, so don't be surprised if you hear thunder. So just saying that. It's getting scary up in here.
Ooh.
Ooh, it's the interview with the break and run. uh,
Watch out, Springtrap's behind you. Since you brought the Dead by Daylight thing.
yep. I'm excited for that. That's actually really cool. But anyway, actually really cool. But anyway, only two more questions left. Let's rock and roll. So number 9,
Gotcha.
where would you like to see For Honor go in the future, and what would you like to see For Honor achieve or accomplish?
Well, all right. So now we're getting into a portion of theory crafting.
Okay.
Um, honestly, over the years that I've done a lot of the content creation and I've seen the game grow, and what they've been doing a lot with like the testing grounds as of late, because they've been working on feats and a lot of more mechanics. So I would say the last 2 years that they've been doing the testing grounds and stuff. Even though there have been some reworks here and there to make a certain hero better, but mainly focusing on like how they changed up the hit stun rule for so you wouldn't get stuck in like 100 0 ganks, and understanding like the guard break rule that they tried to implement, but it will be implemented in the future because JC did say all praise JC.
All hail JC.
But I think where they're going to be going currently at the moment from my theory crafting is that originally For Honor came out and they were doing peer-to-peer servers because of how the game was initially supposed to be made. It was supposed to be more of like a medieval battle simulator, because the original creator of the game, the idea of the game, was Jason Vandenberg, who was a big he actually did like he's a big icon in D&D. He is actually a big German longsword enthusiast, and he practices German longsword. And it felt like the game was supposed to be more like chivalry than what For Honor is currently. During that time, if you see the way that everything grew, he was supposed to do more peer-to-peer service, so it was more of like dueling rather than like the 4v4 mode that we mostly know, and how that kind of didn't cross over with the way that Ubisoft did For Honor. Right. And that the peer-to-peer servers technically didn't work. A lot of people weren't able to connect, so you had to connect so many people to one specific console or one specific PC that if that internet connection wasn't like perfect, everyone would start disconnecting. And it kind of killed For Honor after its first year, because that's when they first started getting dedicated servers after a year the game was up and running.
Right.
So the initial hype of For Honor kind of died during that situation. And even though we have been able to bring some people back, it still hasn't been able to recover from the negative impulse that peer-to-peer had, and the connection problems, and those that did stay, a lot of the times where people were that were enjoying the game during the PvE portion of the game.
Right.
And even though it's still a decent game and still going very, very strong, I think what has initially happened is that they've realized, hey, we need to come out with a second For Honor. And that's what I'm very, very interested in, because with how they've worked on the mechanics of the game and started to work on more of the feats of the game, bringing in more things, that I would feel right now, because of how well they've been doing with For Honor, I would say over the last like 3 years, that I could definitely see them gearing up for For Honor 2 because of those mechanics that they're working on and things that they've been working on so hard to get down pat ever since the CCU that came out, to make the game more fun to attack rather than being in the turtle meta and whatnot. That we've been down a road of a second game, and I'm really hoping for a second game to come out.
That's what I'm hoping to.
And I feel like that would be the biggest boost to the actual For Honor. That's also why the reason I feel like we've been getting like drip content as of late.
Yeah.
I would say over the last like 2-3 years. that it's been more focused on the back end of the game rather than the front end, and I feel like it will pay off in like very, very soon.
I hope so. I really do. I was saying, at the very least, For Honor needs a re-release. Ideally, I would love a sequel. I would love just a For Honor 2.
Yeah. Well, I would love for them to work on their new engine, like their new engine. Even though, and I'll be completely honest, we all know Skull and Bones kind of was a
Yeah.
but it ends up happening. It ends up happening, and I feel like with the graphics in that game that I have seen, bringing everything brand new from that old engine to the new engine, with a For Honor type of sequel, that if they do something along the lines of like, even though Smite 2 isn't like the most popular game, that I feel like that would be the smartest way to bring new people into the game, to bring the code and write it from scratch all over again, bring new different heroes, and start. We definitely need like that start from scratch. We don't need an Overwatch 2 situation.
No, absolutely not.
We don't need that.
That is a negative. But yeah, I'd love to see them just, revamp it, re-release or sequel it, just rebuild it from the ground up. Because now they know what they're doing better, and I really do feel like it looks like they're on the path to do something like that. And if that is the case, that is excellent. But that brings us to our final question. There are lots of people who are either now just getting into the game, or they have been in the game and want to make content. What advice would you give to someone who is brand new to For Honor? And what advice would you give to someone who wanted to make content about For Honor?
When it comes to learning For Honor, one hero that I would suggest you learn is Warlord. Now, a lot of people are very confused about why I say Warlord, and that's if you want to learn to get good at the game. He has a lot of the mechanics that are in the game all wrapped into one hero with a little bit extra health so you can take care of it. But there is the caveat of like, oh, I'm just going to charge and crash everything into the charge and crash everyone off the map, and that's like the biggest trap, I would say, with that hero. But learning about crush encounters, learning about hyper armor, learning your full block and how that works, and being able to be, and also having a really good bash, and gives you very good fundamentals on learning the game at a better level later on, because not a lot of people that play the game understand those fundamentals, because a lot of people just jump in to play the game without even going through like the tutorial or understanding what's happening. And if you're always looking to learn about the game, I'm always here to teach.
Of course.
I'm always here to teach on my Twitch channel, or going through my YouTube. Like, I've done videos on every single hero, so you can watch some games to understand how certain things work, if I've used those mechanics, and what mechanics usually work, what mechanics don't work, and learn just to play smarter in the game to make yourself a better player. When it comes to content, though, the game is a 9-year-old game. We can't dismiss that. Mm-hmm. And it is very hard to make content for a game that is 9 years old. I have a problem with it as well. Right now, currently on the YouTube, I have less than 1,500 subs. And I've been doing this for, almost 5 years on the YouTube?
Right.
And for the same thing for streaming, but streaming, I've made I have 6,000 followers on my Twitch channel. It's a very hard niche to get into, especially with the niche of For Honor, just because it is so old. Not a lot of people play it as much as they used to, and it's a game that definitely should have had that hype that they had back in 2016 when it was initially announced in E3. Even though I wish I was, around at that time, but I didn't get into it until almost 2018. And I feel like it should have gotten the glow up that it needed, but it didn't, due to the negativity around the game. And around, most fighters have that stigma anyway, because a lot of people aren't used to learning a new mechanic. Same thing with Tekken. Understanding that, it's not going to be the easiest game to learn, and not a lot of people find those types of games as fun, because a lot of those fighting games are 1v1 type situations. And we get a lot of those players that are used to fighting by themselves and not team player gamers, to get them to actually like understand what's happening, to understand the rules. Because a lot of people, they watch a lot of content of watching like, how do you like do the best, most optimal gank with this hero and this hero, but not understanding why. And a lot of people don't understand that reason because they don't use those game mechanics to put two and two together.
Yeah, and that's a problem I have. I don't always think about that kind of stuff.
But always, like with making content, finding that niche that's, watch other content creators, understand that there's, hey, where's the niche that's not being used? Like not being utilized? Is there something that that you're not seeing properly? Like there's a lot of people that do 1v1 duels, not a lot of people that do 4v4 Dominion, except for like people like me, Faram, every once in a while, John the Liner. I know Spooky's now a new content creator, and he's been doing really well as a new content creator. And I would say for me, I'm not the best example, but that's because I also don't have as much time with, my family situation and my living situation currently. But I try to do as much as I possibly can for my community, for the For Honor community in general. And that's why also I would love to do more collabs to be able to get that more educational content out there, even though it's not the most popular.
Oh, for sure. And I think that would be an excellent area to approach. But appreciate those answers. And that is all 10 of my questions. Thank you so much, ABreak, for answering all those. And I hope you guys enjoyed his answers. Please, again, go subscribe to his channel. The link will be in the description. But before we go, as promised, if ABreakNRun has any questions for me, the floor is now open for you to ask them. So go ahead, man.
Well, we'll open up with the initial question that we talked about on stream once.
Okay.
And since we've known each other for a while now, and you're such a big fan of the 40K series, what faction would you put me in the universe?
Given your personality and the kind of laid-back way you are, I would honestly put you as probably a rogue trader. In the Imperium, I would see you as a rogue trader, because the rogue traders it's not so much about them being battle line combatants. It's more about them just kind of owning everything. They're the guys who go around and just have the right to step into wherever they want to and just kind of act with the authority of the Imperium and the Emperor without a lot of the red tape that other people would run into. And I just see you as a very laid back, very chill rogue trader. But if I were to put you into like a combatant situation, like where you were actually like on the field of battle, on the field of war, I would see you as an ultramarine, like a Astartes ultramarine. Because you have a knowledge of For Honor and gaming and the technical aspect of it that fascinates me and blows my mind, and it's something that I just do not have. But when I think of tacticum, when I think of the ability to read a situation, the ability, like for example, you said that you analyze Dominion matches to talk about where people went wrong, what they did right, what things they need to think about. Logistics and tacticum is all about ultramarines. That's all about what they are. So I would 100% see you as an ultramarine among the Astartes. That would be where I put you. I had to think about that for a while, but I did think about that. So that's my answer for that one.
Yeah. So, and also I do apologize. I don't have my original question, so please watch the other video as well as another reminder, because I do ask a lot of like deep, hard-hitting questions that really threw Raven for a loop last time in the last video. So it's definitely a go-to watch.
For sure. Go check it out. Again, the link will be in the description. I'll put it there. Absolutely.
In your line of work as a teacher, what subject do you wish you knew about more to be able to teach said subject?
Believe it or not, history. I know that sounds weird since I talk history all the time, but the problem right now, what I do is I'm an English teacher certified, but I can give guest lectures and talks on specific aspects of history. Like I've spoken in college classrooms about the Crusades. I've talked about certain aspects of Japanese history or Japanese culture, but I do not have a certificate to be able to teach history. And the reason why is because my area of knowledge on history is limited to the medieval or pre-modern period. And what they want from a lot of history teachers, especially in the high school or upper level, is they want a general overview knowledge of history. Like, they don't want you to just know the pre-modern, they want you to know the postmodern, they want you to know everything all the way up from the Mesopotamian era all the way up to the Cold War. And that's just something that, while I like it and my brother is super knowledgeable on it, which is why he's a history teacher, it's not my area that I studied well. Like, after you get past probably the 17th century, a lot of my knowledge starts to dwindle. A lot of what I know starts to fall away. And so if I tell people, I could tell you anything you want to know about the Crusades, or about Sengoku period Japan, or about Imperial China, or about the warring eras of Korea, I could tell you about a lot of that stuff. But if you ask me to talk about the Civil War and the intrinsic battles there, yeah, I'm going to point you to my brother and say he knows more than I do. So I honestly wish I knew more about postmodern history, so I would be allowed to teach more history.
So I'll branch off of that question really quick. If you ever wanted to go about that, did you ever think about maybe even being like, instead of being a teacher, maybe being a professor on like medieval history, or maybe learning to bring yourself up like even further in your education to get to that point?
I have,
or maybe even being like historian, or like even like a museum, museum supervisor of that sort, of that portion, or something of that sort.
I've never thought about being a museum attendant or advisor or speaker. I have thought about getting a doctorate. I have considered that. The problem is, with my financial situation being what it is, because I had a bit of a medical emergency about a year or two ago, and that drained my finances in a big way. So it would be very difficult for me to go back to college and get my doctorate to do that. I would love to. I would love to be able to take online courses and get my doctorate in a certain aspect of history and be able to teach that. But it is not something I can feasibly do right this minute. But that is something I have considered. It is something that I would genuinely like to do, because I've been told that I'm wasted in a high school classroom. I should be in a college classroom, and I actually like it more, because I love whenever I'm invited to do a lecture or a talk in a college classroom, because the college students want to be there and they want to listen. High school classrooms, most kids are there because their parents make them be there, so they don't really care. So I love the feeling of having people listen and learn because they want to listen and learn, not those who are forced to listen and learn. So I would much prefer to teach in a college classroom. But in order to do that, I need to get my doctorate, which is going to take a little bit of time and a lot of money.
Yeah. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like a subathon goal.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. That would be a fun subathon goal. Hey, I like that. I'm going to look into doing that now.
Guess what? Might be coming out.
Hey, keep your eyes open, guys. It might just happen.
If you've made it long enough into this video.
If you are watching this far into the video, you are the real OGs. I tell you what, you are the real Chads. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. Keep your eyes
if you watch long enough, watch long enough in this video, I want to see the comment, "Raven is the GOAT."
All right, there you go. I want to see those comments, guys. I want to see those. Let's go.
All right. So actually going into that, with your announcement to go full time on YouTube, what do you think will be your greatest hill to overcome, and why?
Well, like I said, it's going to be for 2 months, so we're going to see how this works. It's an experiment. My biggest hill to overcome is the best way to put this. First of all, before I say the hill, I want to say what I'm excited about for this, because I've had to balance my YouTube stuff with my other work, which means that I haven't been able to give all of my energy to YouTube. But now that I can, and I can spend 2 months just doing nothing but pouring my time and energy into YouTube, I'm very excited to see what I can create, what I can do, and how my channel can grow. But with that being said, the hill I'm going to confront is burnout. And I think the big fear that I have is, if I dedicate all my time and energy over the next 2 months to just doing this, what happens when I start releasing stuff too fast, to the point that, like, let's say that the new season comes out. The new season of For Honor's on the way. Obviously, with me being free, I'm going to be able to dump video after video, stream after stream on this new season. But if I don't pace it out well, if I don't manage the time and pacing of what I release, I'm going to say all I have to say about the new season, and we're not even a week into that season. You know what I'm saying? And I'm worried about controlling my own pace, because I'm an excited guy. If I get excited about a project, I bust my butt. Like when I did the For Honor, when I did the Ubisoft commission that they asked me to do, where I did each of the faction videos, I actually finished 4 of the 5 faction videos within 2 weeks. But we didn't release them except like on a weekly basis. So I was already done with most of the project before I was even supposed to start releasing stuff. So that's one of the things I need to learn a bit more control of, just my pacing and my ability to avoid absolute burnout.
Well, I would say in that situation, as some advice from one person that actually just went through a whole bunch of burnout, is just that's another reason why I do a lot of collaborations as well, is to be able to diversify my focus. Instead of pinpointing my focus, I want to be able to work with other people so that I can open up that pinpoint, so that I'm not so burnt out and that I have more opportunities to move to other content, to see what other people are more interested in, to get this information, get that information from this person, so that I could kind of come up with my own opinion, but also have opinions with other people.
Right. Well, I definitely.
And that's where I kind of feel like that would help. That helps my focus with a lot of things, and that's why I try to work with the content creators as much as possible.
And I was told by when I made this announcement, Havoc and Wexra both reached out to basically say, hey, if you need anything, let us know. So I know that at least in those 2 areas, there are going to be people who want to collab or help out, and that's going to be really helpful. I know that you have no problem at all collabing, like you would be more than willing. So I know definitely, I think it would behoove me to take advantage of that resource of having content creators who are willing to assist and collab. So you can expect me to be in touch with you, Havoc, Wexra, and a few others over the course of the next 2 months. And that officially starts, everyone. I officially start my full-time work next week, because I'm still wrapping up school stuff this week, today and tomorrow, or still have some school responsibilities. But starting next week, we lock in. But really excited for that. But yeah, I hope that answered that question.
It did. And since we are both For Honor content creators, and the heroes in the background of the new season seem to be silhouettes of a rapier and a standard style of weapon wielding hero for the new Wuin, which of these heroes intrigue you the most?
Honestly, I'm more excited for the Wuin. Mostly because I've been waiting for a new Wuin. We haven't had a new Wuin since John. It's so funny to me. I've had so many people complain, like, we haven't had a new Viking since Yorm, and then Varangian Guard comes out and no one's happy. But I'm kind of like, we haven't had a new hero since John Who, and at this point, I'd be happy with just about anything they give us, because there's so much Chinese history has to offer. You can't go wrong. There's so many weapons, so many fighting styles, so many famous individuals in Chinese history you could take from. You can't miss. It's literally, you throw a dart at the wall, you're gonna hit something awesome. Like, you can't miss with this. So I'm really excited to see what they do, and I have so many theories as to what it could be, but I need to see more information first before I make any solid guesses. The new Outlander, I am interested in. I'm kind of like, okay, looks kind of like a rapier, could be a musketeer style hero, could be a Zorro style hero. I could potentially see that, but at the same time, I have never been a huge fan of the rapier as a weapon, and I have my personal reasons for that. So it's not a weapon that I know so many people have told me, I really want a rapier hero, and I'm like, I'm not as excited for that. It's kind of like when people ask me if I was excited for Five Nights at Freddy and Dead by Daylight. It's kind of like, I mean, cool, but it's not what I was banking for. When they add it, I'm definitely going to play it. I'm going to talk about the history behind it. I'll give my thoughts on its practicality. I'll do all that, but it's not something that I'm just jumping up and down for like some other people are. So in answer to the question, which one intrigues me the most, the Wuin. I'm excited for a new Wuin. I want a new Wuin weapon. I want that. That's what I've been begging for. This Outlander, cool. I look forward to it, but let's move on to that Wuin, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially that standard style of weapon, like where it looks like they're holding almost like a lance with a flag on it.
Yes.
It definitely is very, very intriguing, especially with how those weapons have been used in warfare over the years. it is definitely be interesting to see what type of style of weapon it's going to be. It's very, very intriguing.
I want to see more shots of that. I want to see more, even if it's just silhouettes. I want to see more shots because there are so many things it could be, and I
didn't know. I don't know if you saw that silhouette in the background.
I did. It was actually funny. Havoc sent it to me because he. No, it's true. It was right after they did the teaser for it. Havoc said, "Dude, are you gonna be okay?" And I said, "What are you talking about? Have you seen the new image he showed it to me?" And I'm like, "I don't see what's wrong." And he zoomed in on the silhouettes, and I looked at them and I'm like, "Oh, are those the new heroes?" He said, "Look at the way that one is standing," and he showed it compared to an image of a rapier holder, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" So he did show me those two heroes, but I didn't know that the second hero was going to be a Wuin until the big announcement saying that the next one was going to be Wuin. I'm like, oh, so now it's making me looking at it a whole new way. So I'm so pumped, and as we get closer, probably after season 2, once the hype for the new Outlander hero dies down, I'm going to release some videos theorizing who I think the Wuin could be based on how the year is going, based on what the weapon looks like. I'll make some theories. Plus, again, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but people have been talking about like whether or not they'll stick with the pattern, because the pattern they've been doing is the first hero of the year is always a guy, and the second hero is always a girl. And if they keep with that, then this new hero coming will be a guy, and then the Wuin will be a girl, which could open up some opportunities for what she is. But there was also what Daubeny said in the trailer, where he was talking about season 2 being about duels and saying she will be interested, implying the new hero could be a girl. Which are they going to swap the pattern? I don't know which they're going to do, because if the new Wuin is a guy, that does also change who it could be based on, because I think it's going to be based on someone from history, and I have theories, but we'll see.
I do believe that they are going to switch it up. That is my theory.
Well, it'll be interesting all the same. I'm curious to see what they'll do. I really am.
Especially with that standard weapon looking very, very big, almost Griffin-like.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be, like, I'll go ahead and say my initial thought. I think it's going to be a Lu Bu hero. I think they're going to base this hero off of Lu Bu, the famous Chinese warrior general. And that weapon, if that is true, then the weapon is likely the halberd that Lu Bu was famous for. So that is my...
Yeah, but I just never remember, like, a standard on that weapon. Like a flag that's being pushed, that's being put down the side, a very rectangular style of flag to it.
Yeah, I don't either, but that would be my first guess. And like I said,
Could also be something like it's very like almost like their cavalry type of situation as well, because those weapons were used during like cavalry.
Could be. Yeah, like I said, I would need to see more to really know for sure, but Lu Bu is just the first guess. If it's a girl, if it does turn out to be a girl Wuin, then I could be a lot of things. There are a few female Chinese heroes that it could be based on, but again, I would just need to see it. So I don't want to make any guesses right now until I know more. I know people are going to ask, "What do you think?" I don't know.
Well, guess what? It's out there now.
It's out there now.
Let's see. And since we've already gone through all of that, is there any projects in the works that you would like to do together in the future?
With me and you? Let me see. Well, what I'm doing right now, I am plotting out the next... what I'm doing is I'm planning on rebooting or redoing my For Honor analysis series, which it was the original thing I did when I started the channel, where I look at each individual hero, I break down who they're based on, I break down how they fight, what their movesets are, I give tips and tricks on how to use them, and I analyze their executions. I stopped doing the series because I started doing my Heroes in History, which covered the historical connections, and I do my Executions Graded, which covers the executions analysis. That means the only thing left to talk about in that Analyze series is the moveset and tips and tricks, which is more you and other folks' speed. So what I may end up doing is asking you or other folks who specialize in those heroes for like your tips and tricks on those heroes, like what you guys would do, like maybe give your 2 cents on the best way to use these heroes. That could be something we end up doing. I'm still plotting that out, so we'll see. Yeah, that could be something. There's also the chance to possibly talk about, especially as we get into the new season. You know me, I'm a history guy. I love me history. I love me some history. Could talk about the historical versus the practical. Like, is what we see in For Honor historically sound versus how it works in game? Like, stuff like that. There are things that we could try to do. The problem with me is because my style of content is so niche, it is very hard to do certain kinds of collabs with other people. Because other people are not going to be, and this isn't a bash on anyone, please understand that. But it often happens where if I'm in a group of content creators, like take this for example, and you got a little bit of hidden information for you guys, but when early access stuff is given, quite often the content creators who get early access talk about what they think in terms of what they're seeing, what they like, what they don't like. Whenever we have those conversations, I kind of always feel like I'm the odd man out because I don't know the mechanics, I don't know the technique, I don't know the numbers or things like that. So all I could really say is it definitely fits historically. Like I can just put my thumbs up and say that's what that is. But that's all I can really contribute because that's my area of knowledge. So it can be difficult to do collabs when my area of knowledge and expertise is not what most people are either aware of or interested in. So that if you ever come up with any ideas for collabs that I could be part of, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to.
We can always go through, learning the mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can always go through learning strategy. We can always go over, and for me, I'm very chameleon-like when it comes to like content, where as long as someone tells me, hey, this is what we're going to do, I could always weasel my way in.
Right.
Because I do have a passion for the game. I am very passionate about many aspects of the game.
Right.
Just not a lot of people are always down to do certain things because they don't know how I'm going to act with certain ways. Like, you can tell me, hey, we're going to have fun tonight. We're just going to mess around in the game. And my inner, Navy sailor will come out and you'll be like, where the fuck did this person come from? But for me, I always need something to bounce off of. I'm a very almost like wall type of person. Like if you just stare at a wall, they're not really going to do anything. But if you smack a ping pong ball against it, they'll play with you all day.
Yeah. Throw in some activity for sure. But yeah, like we can definitely have a conversation about some collab ideas. I'd love to do some more, and especially as I get into this more free time I'm going to have these next 2 months, I'm sure there'll be opportunities to at least experiment. So any other questions you got?
Besides that, how are you doing?
How am I doing? It's a complicated.
That's the last one.
No, it's okay. It's a complicated question, honestly. I am trained to just say I'm okay, but if I'm being honest, I'm nervous as all get out. I'm approaching a new period of my life with this experiment on full-time YouTubing and stuff like that. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know how successful it'll be. Best case scenario, I make good money. I grow my channel very well. I get great responses and engagement with my audience. And I can say, hey, that was awesome. Maybe one day we can turn this into a full-time job, or at least I know what I'm doing next summer. Worst case scenario, I don't make the money I need to. My channel doesn't grow all that much and I don't see a lot of change. And in that case, well, I had to try, So I'm nervous about how that's going to come out. And then I'm also nervous about next year because I'm fighting to get another teaching job at a local private school, which would actually be a very good pay for me. And I'm fighting for that job, but there are at least 3 other people contending for the position. So I'm having to prove that I'm worth getting, which means a lot of performance and a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, I'm hoping to hear back soon. But there's just a lot of stuff going on, and concerns with that are always out there. Plus, as you know about me, and as many of my community knows about me, I have very low self-esteem. And so quite often I think worse of myself than I really should. It's one thing to be humble. It's another thing to be self-defeating. And I can be very self-defeating. And so I'm having to battle that aspect of myself too. So,
well, you know what helps out with that? Collaboration.
I told you guys, he's very dedicated to this. But
I just want to see everyone do better.
For sure, for sure, and I'm working at that. You know, I am. I've been true.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing better than I was before. That's for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
if that's all, thank you so much, Break, and thank you for the questions. I really appreciate it. And to all of you watching, again, in the description, I will not only have a link to the original interview video I did with ABreakNRun, where you can hear some of his hard-hitting questions and some very different questions from me as well, but you will also get a link to ABreakNRun's channel where you can go and subscribe and support him. He really deserves the support. So that is all the time we have. Anything you want to say, Break, before we close out?
Watch out for future collaborations.
And yep, watch out for those future collaborations and be aware if you've made it.
You
this
know,
far in the
maybe
video.
maybe some streams coming up,
Hey.
maybe some other things coming up. You don't know.
You don't
maybe,
know.
you know, some early content.
Hey. I can't say anything yet, but, you know, could be some crazy stuff. Anyway, thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. If you watch this far in the video, thank you so much. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care. 3, 2...